Hi, my name is Alex Chung, and I did my speech over Perry, but I put a little tiny twist on why his upbringing was the cause of his criminality. So I titled my speech, "Who Are You?" Going through the phase from adolescence to adulthood, a choice has to be made to whether you're going to choose the path that you desire, or to follow the path that the people around you and surround you followed and walked upon. So whether the path is good or evil, the choice that always feels like home and normal, what you've always experienced, is the easiest to choose and also the hardest to escape. So Perry, in the novel In Cold Blood, Perry submits to the negativity that surrounds his childhood and the people that around him committed. Perry's criminality began when the choices he was deciding upon took little to no thought and came naturally due to his background and how he normally felt. A look into his childhood reveals the foundation that of a boy that endured abuse, a lack of love and affection, and experienced rejection. His choices led to a traumatic damage on the mind of Perry, and they also haunted him long into the future. So time and time again, the people around him that were in his upbringing made negative choices, and this impacted and influenced his choices that he would make in the future. So the abuse that he endured would come into play whenever he would murder the Clutter family. He had no sympathy, and he just showed only ruthlessness. And then the lack of love and affection would be embedded to his personality and to his traits. And so whenever he was, however he showed people who he was and how he felt towards them, he had a lack of love and affection to those around him. The rejection he lived through would come into play also whenever he would take out his anger on the Clutter family, how he envied what they had and what they represented, how they were the ideal family in the community. They had a good life, they had everything they needed, and had hardly any troubles. He would be envious of this, and because of all this was absent in his own life. His childhood wasn't stable. He didn't have loving people to surround him, so he was jealous, and the rejection he felt led to an indifference on how he felt towards them. He would reject them, and thinking that if he took away this from the Clutter family, all this good in their life, then it would also he would feel better about himself because it didn't have it in his life. So some people may say that Perry's childhood had nothing to do with how he turned out in his criminal life, but they would also find sympathy because of his childhood. He endured abuse and rejection. His family wasn't there for him, and they might also say that he was man. He was man enough to choose his own path and make his own decisions. But through all this, many people get to decide their own path and make their own choices. But in Perry's case, the traumatic imprint that all his childhood left on his mind affected his thought process and decision-making skills. So although everyone has the power to be their own person, to make their own choices and decisions, and to follow their own paths, Perry had a traumatic influence on his mind that altered his thinking process and decision-making skills. This led to a negative life that would also lead to criminality. It was these same factors that led him to the actions of murdering the Clutter family, and it was because it was always easier to do what felt normal and what came natural to him than to think things through and choose the better path.